Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on the time you'll be watching this. I'm Professor Robert Kumar, and I wanted to take you through a small lecture tutorial on list, right? And list is one of those data structure that is very commonly used in Python, right? In Java, if you want to implement a list, you can use an array list data type, right? In C++, there is the vector that you can use. So what I'm going to do is that simply I'm going to share my screen. Okay, I want to make sure that everything that I need here is working properly. Share my screen and the recording is on as well. All right, looking good. So, like I said, I'm using Python for this tutorial, but other languages have something very, very similar, right? The idea of list came from the idea of array, and we know array before. Array is basically visually, if you look at array is something like that, right? And basically, I'm going to say array, and here put number 4. Right? Assuming that's an integer array, and each of these positions, each of those slots, right? Each of those places where I can store data in is referenced by an index. So this would be 0, 1, 2, 3, right? I can put some numbers in here. Let's just assume that these numbers are in my array. So 90 and 100, right? So that is the idea of an array. For those of you that have used array, you know that the biggest limitation is, of course, the size. Some languages allow you to increase the size, right? You can, that's possible, you can do that, but it's almost you end up putting in extra work to be able to efficiently do that. Later, then after the array, programming languages have introduced the idea of a list or an array list. And visually, if you look at a list also looks like an array. I mean, if I have to draw this, maybe a vertical would be like that. And the cool thing about this is, I'm going to take this bottom part out here. The cool thing about an array list would be, I can keep adding item in here, and it will increase as needed. So let's say I put 75 here, 89 here, and 90 here, and then 100. Right? There is no, basically, I can put I can put more item in this list. In Python, when you declare a list, basically you say lst is equals to empty list is with a square bracket, right? And so let me walk you through. This is just a visual representation of what a list is. And right, what we want to do is being able to look at some of the methods that's provided that makes programming a list very much easy, right? So normally when I do my Python code, I use the IDLE, right, which is my Python editor. Very, very lightweight, right? Very lightweight, easy to use. So I'm going to bring that up, and also going to, so when you open this window up, this will bring up an not editor, this is an interpreter, right? It's called an interpreter. And if you need to download something like this, you can always go to Python and then look for Python download on the internet, and you'll find it. Okay, first thing first, I always go ahead and create a new file, and then I'm going to save this. Right away, save this, and I'm going to save this on my desktop. I have a folder called Python code, and maybe I'll save it on my list tutorial and put this as number 1. Right, so everything's looking good. Everything's ready so far. Right, so now, and the other thing I'm going to do is that normally when I do my tutorials, I try to do it on the left side of my desktop. So if you're watching this, you can also move this to this recording on the left side of your screen, and on the right side of your desktop you could open a Python editor and follow me, right, and copy me. Okay, so basically, how do we go about declare an empty list? And that is done basically by, you simply say scores list, right? Score list is equals to empty list, right? That is one way you can create a list in Python. The other way, you can also you can create a list with items in it, right? And let's just say I have my list with store names in here, right? Like I said, square brackets, right? That tells Python compiler that this is a list, and in here you will put in names of stores. I'm going to put in, of course, these are string values, single quote. I believe you can also use double quote, but Python is single quote is treated as a string as well. Items are items in a list is they are separated by a comma, right? This would be my Sam's here, and I'm also going to put my favorite store, which is called well, I'm not sure if it's favorite anymore, but Ken's, like that. So that is a list which has got some string names in it. And the weird thing about Python also is that it allows you to create actually store names. Store names is good, but I'm going to put store list here. I just want to be consistent and have everything end with the list. So my list. Now this is a cool thing. In Python, list is not restricted to data type. What I mean is that I can put a 23 here, 40. Those are numbers, by the way. Those are whole numbers. I can also put decimals here as well, right? I can put decimals and so forth. And then I can also put names of my friends, right? John, and then let's put Mary here as well. Okay. Also, I can put another list in a list. I can put another list here, 23, and so forth. I've done other programming with Python where you can put a dictionary in a list. You can put all kinds of data structure in there. And in some way, it really makes it easier to use a data structure such as list because it's so flexible, right? I mean, it allows you to easily do various things in a very easy manner. So, okay, now this next line of code is one line of code, but it is so important because it helps students print contents of the list. Okay, so what this does is that it helps students quickly print and see what is in my list. And the way you do that, you simply say print, and you say, score list, comma, store list in my list. Okay, so now I'm going to run this. I'm going to move this a little bit to the right, run this, and you see it will print out the names of contents of my list. So expanding this, you see the first list that I had is an empty list. There's empty square brackets, nothing in it. The second list had names of stores, and the third list that I created it has a list of mixture of data types, right? Mixture of data types, which hardly is the need, but it's possible, right? Which hardly is the need, but possible. All right, now with that, okay, so I don't need to print this anymore. I'm going to comment that out, right? In Python, you comment out using a pound sign. So, all right, now that I've, and I won't be using these one as well. All I'm doing today's lecture, I'll be using my empty list, right? So how do we go about inserting item in the list? We use, how do we insert item, right? The way we do that, you simply say score list.append. .append means insert item at the end, right? Append, and let's just say, this is a score list. Basically, it has a list of scores that I got in assignments. So let's just put some numbers here, right? That, and then score list.append. Okay, oops. And then score list.append as well. And that would be, so how many items have I added so far? I've added 3 items. This is my 4th one. According to index, right? What index is this item going to be? The one I'm adding right now, 121, right? So I'm going to go back to my drawing here, right? Drawing, this is at index 0. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. Remember one thing though, if you look at the size of this array list, the size would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? The size would be 5, but the index ends at 4 because it starts at 0, right? It has 5 items. It has 5 items in my list. However, the index starts at 0. It ends at 1 minus the size. Remember that information. Okay, so that goes here, and my other screen goes here. So now, let me add one more. All right, score list.append, and maybe we can put in 45. Oh, and that just that just doesn't make sense. Maybe I got a 12 and 45, right? So these are my scores. Okay, so next thing, how do we go about checking if our score list has the right data that we put in, right? Simply you go ahead and do a print, And here you do a score list, right? This is so important. You don't realize, when you're dealing with the list, because you're appending data, you're inserting data, you may be deleting data. Every now and then it's good for you to go and check and make sure that your code is producing the right, your list has the right data in it, which in this case it is, right? So I don't need that. I'm going to move that down. That is okay for me. Now, how do we get, the count of items in the list, right? How do we get the count of item in the list, right? And that is done simply by using the code. I'm going to say print, right? That is done by using the code length LENGTH. Okay, that's I was kind of like, is my spelling correct or not? LEN as in length, score list, right? So that will give me, that should give me the length of how many items is in my list. Okay. The other thing that you can also, so that is how you get the count. How do we get an item based on index, right? We have seen how do we put items inside the list, but how do we get items from the list? How do we get items from the list? And the way you can do that, I can simply say X, or maybe I is equals to a score list, and you provide the index of the item you want. And in this case, I want item number, index number 2, which is item number 3 right here. So when I print I, I can print I here and say item at index 2, right? 2, okay, and that would be single quote, and that should be I. I can print I here. I can also print. I can also do like that too. I don't have to take out. I don't have to take out the value that is at index number 2 and store it in a variable to print the variable. I don't have to do that, right? I can straight away access the value that is sitting at position, index 2, which is position 3, right in my code like that, right? So, so far written some code. Let's go ahead and test this out. So now I'm testing if my length code is working properly, and also if I'm able to get an element out from my array, right? Based on the position. So you see, the length is 5, and I'm looking at index 2. It says that I have 78 at that index. So index 2, which would be that, I have 78 right there, right? Everybody's following me so far? All right, so that is, how do you get items from an array? Now, how do you update an item? No, I said array, list. How do you update an item in the list? How do you update, right? Remember, if I mispronounce and if I call array, everything today is about list, right? Everything I'm doing here is about list. So how do we update item at index? Let's just deal with index 2 since we are working on it at index 2. And the way you do that is basically you simply say is call list, and you provide the subscript, the index of where you want to change it. At index 2, I want now that to be 88, right? How do we verify? I go ahead and print my score list again. I'm going to print that score list again, and this time at position 3, index 2, position 3, right? That should give me 88. That should give me 88, which is right here. So you see, the beauty of programming this way is as you're writing code, you're declaring an empty list, right? You're adding items to it using the append method. You're getting the length of it. You're getting item at a particular position, right? And you're updating item at particular position. You can always put these print statements to see if your code is working the way you want it to work, right? That is a very important thing, right? This helps you look at your code and see if it's working the way it needs to work. Okay, so that is that. The other thing that comes into play, now actually I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to go down here, right? The other code is how do you remove item at the end, right? And the way this is done is simply you say score list dot pop, right? That will take out item at the end. And I'm going to do another one. So that means if I run this code, 2 items should be gone, correct? Right? So now, I'm going to take my print statement again, and I'm going to print it, right? Take out 2 items, take out two, remove items, right? 2 items at the end, and then it should give me 2 less items. So watch this. I'm doing a whole bunch of things here. I'm adding and doing a whole bunch of things. But anyways, line number 28 in my code is printing the current items in that list. Line number 28, right? And then I'm removing, I'm taking out 2 items from the end, right? And then I'm printing line 33. I'm printing what's currently available in my list. So let me go ahead and run this, and you see it should remove the 2 items at the end, and it should print what is left over in my list. So everybody's following so far? All right, now also, so now you see how do we remove item, right? How do we go about inserting items somewhere? When we do append, how does append work, right? Where does append add item? Append adds item at the end, right? Now I want to add item somewhere in the middle, right? I want to add item in the middle. So I'm going to say, insert item at position, position maybe 2 or maybe 3, right? Let's just put 3. So I think there'd be a problem because I've taken 2 items from here, right? I've popped out, I've removed 2 items. So let me just put it position 2 because I think I do have 3 items in my list to be able to use it. So the way that is done is simply you say score list.insert, and you provide where you provide. I want to insert at position 2, right? And then let's put it position 1. I'm sorry, right? Position 1. I mean, not position 1. Index, right? Index. You can be confused with using index and position. When I say index, I'm talking about index. I'm talking about from 0 to 4 on the diagram on the right. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are index. Index starts at 0. And when I talk about position is the number, right? Index 2 is position 3, right? So I'm going to try to make sure that I don't use the wrong terms here. So insert an item in index 2, index 1, and I want to insert 234, right? After inserting it, I want to print my list again. So score list, and that will, let's see what that gives you. Okay, so I'm going to go to run and hit run here. Now, so you see what happens here is that according to my code, right, I'm inserting 234 at index 1, right? So that means 234 would be my second item in the list, right? So that is, so far, that is looking good, isn't it? All right, now, all of this that we have looked today, right? I mean, list has a lot of many functions, many things you can use. All of these are fairly cool, right? Commonly used. So the other one that you can also do in a list data structure is you can clear the list, right? How do we remove clear or remove everything, right? And what that does is that you can simply say score list dot clear, right? And now watch this. When I print this out, guess what? Everything should be gone, right? Score list, everything should be gone. I'm going to save this and I'm going to run this code. You see what happens at the end? I have an empty list because everything that was there is gone, right? The clear does it. So that is there. Now, also one of my favorite things in using a list, even in Java. I mean, I love using array list in Java because of this reason. I'm gonna tell you what. Because of the for loop, right? So this is how do you iterate through a list, right? How do you do that? And this is easy. For you can call I or whatever variable name you want in score list, right? Print I, right? And basically that is how you loop through, you iterate through iterate through the list. Okay, so I'm going to run this piece, and you see it will print out. Oh, what happened? Oh, guess what happened? It didn't print anything because everything is empty. Remember I cleared it out, right? I can remember I cleared it out. So I'm going to take this code out, right? Because I don't want, right? I don't want that clear to work. You know, I want some data to be in my array, in my list to print it out. So going to run my code again, and now you see is printing out some elements inside my list. Actually, not some elements, all elements. It's printing everything in there. All right. That is the other way you can also do this is or the other code that I didn't mention is you can print. How do you get the size, right? I thought we did the length. Oh, we did the length. No, length is there. That is good. All right, that is good. So okay. Now what I do is normally, right, in my whenever I teach students, right, what I do is that at this time I open up a notepad and simply I ask my students to do something based on the code that we have written together, right? I'm going to ask all of you to go ahead and create, right? Create a list of shopping items, right? Number one, and then I want you to add the following to your list, right? And you will be adding, let's just say you put bread in there, right? You'll be adding some soda and maybe some, what else do you buy? Bread and some, let's just add sugar, right? Add those items. And then I want you to, number three, I want you to, print output size of the list, right? And then also number four, output, spelling correctly, I'm sorry. Output all items in the list. Number five, I want you to give item at index number 2, right? Number 6, actually let's change this to number 3. And then also what I want you to do here, question number 6 is remove item at index 4. And number 7, right? I want you to use pop, right? Pop. Number 8, I want you to use for loop to print items, right? So this is what I want you to work on, right? Look at the code that we wrote together, right? And go ahead and try to finish this, and let me know if you have any questions. All right? Very well. And I'm here to help you. Thank you.